I'm Tara Evans, 30 years old, and I've spent half my life trying to prove I'm more than the rebellious daughter my father loves to dismiss. Growing up in the shadow of the Evans resort empire, a sprawling chain of luxury getaways my dad, Robert Evans, built from a single beachside and into a global brand, I was always the odd one out. My older brother, Mark, was the golden child, polished, obedient, groomed from childhood to inherit the business with his tailored suits and rehearsed smiles.
Me?
I was the wild one, sneaking out at dawn to surf the Pacific waves, skipping board meetings for art classes in the community center, and dreaming of a life beyond the gleaming marble lobbies and overpriced cocktails. Our childhood home, a sprawling estate overlooking the ocean, was less a family haven and more a stage for Dad's ambitions, where every family dinner was a performance of his success. At 18, I packed a duffel bag and left, determined to make my own way, leaving behind the expectations that chafed like ill-fitting shoes. The years after were a grind. I waitressed in San Diego, designed logos for local businesses in Austin, and freelanced as a graphic artist in Seattle, each job a stepping stone to something bigger. 5 years ago, I landed a role at Horizon Hotels, a rival hospitality group, starting as a junior operations coordinator. Through sheer tenacity, late nights analyzing guest feedback, negotiating with vendors, mediating staff disputes, I climbed ahead of operations by 29, managing a portfolio of properties that rivaled Dad's in scope, if not prestige. My office in Miami overlooks the ocean I once surfed, a symbol of the life I've forged. But to Dad, I'm still the daughter who ran away, a disappointment who traded family legacy for a paycheck. He'd call occasionally, his voice thick with condescension, asking when I'd come to my senses and return to the fold. I always hung up, my pride a shield against his barbs. The breaking point came last month when I returned to the estate for Mark's engagement party. Dad had been pressuring me for months, saying, "It's time you reconciled, Tara. Mark's marrying into the Whitmore family, big money, and we need unity." I agreed reluctantly, hoping for a truce, a chance to show him I'd succeeded on my terms. The estate was a spectacle. Crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light, a live band playing jazz, and guests in tuxedos and gowns, all fawning over the Evans legacy. I wore a simple black dress, my only nod to the occasion, its hem slightly frayed from travel, and tried to blend in among the champagne flutes and caviar trays. Dad spotted me near the bar, his laugh booming across the room like a thunderclap. "Tara, look at you, slumming it with the help," he bellowed, drawing every eye. I forced a smile, bracing myself, but he wasn't done. "You'll never step foot in our resorts again," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "You're no Evans, too busy chasing pipe dreams to understand business." The crowd chuckled, a ripple of amusement at my expense. Mark, standing with his fiancée Emily, looked away, his silence a tacit agreement. Mom, perched on a velvet chair, sipped her wine, her usual quiet complicity a familiar sting. The humiliation burned. I'd built a career, managed multi-million-dollar properties, yet Dad saw me as a failure. Later, I overheard him in his study with Mark, their voices muffled through the oak door. I pressed my ear closer, a habit from years of navigating his temper. "She's got no stake here," Dad bragged. "Cut her out of the will, let her sink or swim on her own. Mark, you're the future." Mark murmured agreement, and I felt the betrayal like a physical blow. My own brother, my ally in childhood pranks, had sided with Dad. I slipped outside, the ocean breeze cool against my flushed cheeks, and called my assistant, Jenna, to vent. Her voice, steady and supportive, sparked an idea. As head of operations at Horizon, I oversaw a partnership deal with the Evans Resort chain, a VIP access program granting family members, including Dad, a golden keycard he flaunted like a crown. But I also had the authority to revoke it. Back inside, I found a quiet corner near the garden and logged into the system from my phone, my fingers trembling over the screen. Revoking his access would be a declaration of war, a line I couldn't uncross. But his words echoed, "You'll never step foot in our resorts." I hit confirm, canceling his VIP status, and felt a rush of adrenaline as the system updated. Security would be notified, and his keycard would be useless at any Evans property. I didn't tell anyone, savoring the secret as I rejoined the party, watching him hold court with his cronies, oblivious to the axe I'd sharpened. The next day, I couldn't let it rest. Dad's empire wasn't as invincible as he boasted. Rumors of mismanagement had swirled for years. Overbooked resorts, underpaid staff, whispers of falsified revenue. As a rival executive, I had contacts who could dig deeper. I reached out to a former Evans accountant, now with Horizon, a quiet man named Paul who'd quit after clashing with Dad. Over coffee, he confirmed irregularities, millions unaccounted for, possibly embezzled through offshore accounts, kickbacks from contractors, and payroll padded with ghost employees. My mind raced. If I could expose this, it wouldn't just be payback. It'd be justice for the workers Dad exploited and the family trust he'd shattered. I compiled a dossier, planning to hand it to Horizon's legal team, but I wanted Dad to feel the fall first. The annual Evans Resort Gala was in 2 weeks, a high-profile event with donors, politicians, and press. I'd be there, not as a guest, but as a force he couldn't ignore, with a plan to unravel his empire thread by thread. The 2 weeks before the gala were a relentless marathon of strategy and restraint, a test of my resolve against the ghosts of my past. My days were consumed with Horizon's operations, overseeing staff training at our flagship Miami property, negotiating contracts with suppliers, mediating a dispute between chefs, while my nights were spent plotting Dad's downfall in the quiet of my apartment, the hum of the air conditioner my only company. The irony fueled me. His dismissal had ignited a fire to strip him of the power he'd wielded so carelessly, turning his laughter into a memory he'd regret. I worked from my sleek office, its glass walls offering a panoramic view of the ocean, a constant reminder of the life I'd built far from his suffocating control. I collaborated with Jenna, my ever-reliable assistant, and our legal counsel, Sarah, a sharp-witted woman with a knack for loopholes, to refine the plan. We pored over Paul's data, spreadsheets of discrepancies, emails hinting at kickbacks, payroll records showing dozens of ghost employees, their non-existent wages funneled into Dad's pockets. It was a goldmine, enough to raise red flags with state regulators, but I wanted more than a dry report. I decided to use the gala to confront Dad publicly, leveraging my position at Horizon to invite inspectors under the guise of a partnership review. Sarah drafted a formal letter to the Florida Hospitality Board, citing concerns over compliance and financial irregularities, and I ensured it'd be delivered during the event, timed to maximize impact. My role was to signal the inspectors, posing as a Horizon executive, with a discreet nod during Dad's speech. Security, already briefed on the revoked VIP access, would handle the initial disruption, while inspectors dug into the books. To prepare, I practiced my delivery relentlessly, standing before a full-length mirror to perfect a calm, authoritative tone that masked the storm within. I rehearsed lines like, "This isn't personal, Dad, it's business," though every word carried the weight of years of rejection. I also trained physically, hitting the gym to channel my anger, weightlifting until my muscles burned, kickboxing until my knuckles bruised, each punch a release of the frustration he'd sown. One evening, I sifted through old family photos, Dad teaching me to tie knots on a dock, us laughing at a resort barbecue, Mom braiding my hair, memories now tainted by his cruelty. That pain drove me forward, a quiet resolve to reclaim my dignity. I also upgraded my outfit, commissioning a tailored navy suit from a local designer, its lines sharp and modern, a stark contrast to the black dress he'd mocked. The suit arrived the day before the gala, fitted with a hidden mic sewn into the lapel to coordinate with Jenna, who'd monitor from a van outside with a live feed. Dad called that afternoon, his voice gruff and impatient. "Tara, you'd better show up tomorrow. Mark's counting on family support, and I won't have you embarrassing us again. Keep your head down, stick to the bar if you must." I agreed, masking my intent with a neutral tone. He didn't suspect I'd already alerted Horizon security to bar him from VIP areas, a move tied to his revoked keycard, or that I'd arranged for inspectors to arrive at 8 p.m., coinciding with his address. The night of the gala, I arrived early, parking near the resort's entrance to avoid the valet line. The venue was a masterpiece. Tropical gardens blooming with orchids, a grand ballroom with vaulted ceilings, and guests in opulent attire, their laughter a symphony of privilege. I adjusted my suit, the fabric crisp against my skin, and stepped inside, my heels clicking with purpose. Dad spotted me near the check-in desk, his laugh cutting through the music like a blade. "Tara, trying to look the part?" he jeered. "Still no stake here. Borrowed that suit, did you?" The crowd smirked, and Mark, standing with Emily, looked uncomfortable but remained silent, his loyalty to Dad unshaken. I nodded politely, my mic buzzing with Jenna's voice. "Team ready. Inspectors en route. Wait for your cue." Dad took the stage, launching into a speech about the Evans legacy, his voice a mix of pride and bravado. "We've built an empire on trust and excellence," he declared, raising a glass. I scanned the room, Mark clapping, Mom nodding, guests sipping champagne, oblivious to the storm brewing. At the peak of his toast, I gave the signal, a subtle tilt of my head toward the entrance. Within minutes, Horizon Security escorted 2 inspectors in, their badges gleaming under the chandeliers. Dad's smile faded as they approached. "What's this?" he demanded, his voice cracking. I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. "A compliance review, Dad. Your VIP access is revoked. Check your keycard." He swiped it at the podium. It flashed red, a humiliating beep echoing through the silence. The room gasped, and inspectors began their audit, seizing laptops and ledgers from the office. The gala dissolved into pandemonium, guests whispering in clusters, inspectors rifling through records with clinical precision, Dad's face turning crimson as security blocked his path to the VIP lounge. The red flash of his keycard became a symbol of his fall, a public stripping of the privilege he'd wielded like a scepter. Mark rushed to his side, his fiancée Emily trailing, but Mom stood frozen near the stage, her silence now a liability in the unfolding drama. I stood tall, my navy suit a badge of my authority, my heart pounding with a mix of vindication and the bittersweet ache of family ties severed. Dad stormed toward me, his voice a growl of rage. "You did this? You little traitor, after everything I built." I met his gaze, unflinching, my years of suppressed anger rising like a tide.
"No, Dad. You did."
"You laughed at me, cut me out of the will, dismissed my life. I built my own empire, and this is justice. For me, for the staff you exploited, for the trust you broke." He lunged, his hand raised, but security intervened, pinning his arms as he shouted obscenities. The inspectors seized more evidence, ledgers detailing embezzlement, emails with contractors, proof of falsified revenue reports. Sarah joined me, whispering, "They've got enough for a full investigation. The board's already calling. This could sink him." The state board froze Evans' resort assets that night, pending an audit, and Dad's reputation crumbled under the weight of his own misdeeds. The fallout was swift and brutal. Headlines blared, "Evans' resort empire under scrutiny," and "Daughter's revenge shuts down VIP access," across morning papers and social media. Reporters camped outside the estate, digging into Dad's finances, while the board ousted him in an emergency meeting, citing gross misconduct. Mark resigned from his VP role to distance himself, leaving Emily to navigate the fallout alone, and Mom moved to a modest condo, her social circle evaporating as the scandal spread. I didn't revel in the destruction. My goal was balance, not annihilation, but the sight of Dad's empire dimming brought a quiet satisfaction. Horizon offered me a promotion to Vice President of Operations, recognizing my strategic move, and I accepted. My new office, now a corner suite with a view of the waves I'd once ridden as a rebel. A week later, Dad sent a letter, his handwriting shaky on the envelope. "Tara, I was wrong. I let pride blind me.
Can we talk?"
I lost everything. I read it by the window, the ocean stretching endlessly before me, memories flooding back, him teaching me to tie knots on a dock, us arguing over my decision to leave, the slow erosion of our bond. I didn't reply. The hurt ran too deep, a wound he'd inflicted with every laugh and dismissal. I drove past an Evans resort once. Its sign dimmed, the parking lot eerily empty, a ghost of its former glory. My roots weren't in his resorts. They were in the life I'd forged, in the resilience I'd honed. Months later, I learned through a friend that Dad had moved to a small apartment, relying on a dwindling trust fund. Mark had taken a job with a competitor, and Mom was volunteering at a local shelter, a humbling shift from her gala days. The trial loomed, with prosecutors building a case against Dad for fraud and embezzlement, his legal team scrambling. I attended a Horizon gala, my promotion celebrated with colleagues who respected my journey and felt a peace I hadn't known. The red flash of his keycard had been more than revenge. It was the moment I reclaimed my worth. On revenge lane, betrayal stings, but justice turns the key. What would you do if family dismissed you? Share below and subscribe for more payback tales.